Been looking at some of these things with the millennials, how they don't like to work, and of course there's some of them who, you know, special snowflakes who've gone and stuck on YouTube about why they don't like to work, and the point it basically comes down to is we don't like to work because we've only got a certain amount of life, and life's more enjoyable if we do other things with our life. I don't know at which point you failed to realise in your inexperienced youth that most people ain't working because they like to work, they're working because they have to work. It's as simple as that, you know. And the reality is that there's something like about 80% of people hate their job or think it's all right enough, and you know, 10% of people love their job, and another 10% couldn't care less either way, or some shit like that. But there's a huge amount that really don't enjoy working at all, and only 10% that actually love their job. And this is the thing, oh, you know, millennials don't like work because we've got better things to do with our life, and if we do work then we're going to get taxed, blah, 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 blah. Fuck me, you know, like, I hate to tell you, but work is one of these things that's necessary, you know, especially if you start getting extra things in life. And I don't have a great deal of extra obligations in life, you know, I don't have a wife, I don't have / girlfriend, don't have a child, or don't have child support or anything like that, you know, so you're relatively alright, but I still got to eat, I've still got to put fuel in my car, and even if you're living off food stamps, you might still have to pay for an internet connection and that, you know, ridiculously overpriced iPhone you've got, and blah, blah, blah. You know, it's one of these things that the way the Western world and all that's been structured now, especially in suburbia per se, is if you don't have money, there's not much you can do, except maybe go down and bum off someone's free Wi-Fi and maybe buy a coffee or something like that. But outside of that, like, what are you going to do? Walk on the beach? Just saying, you know, out here, you got more opportunities to grow vegetables and do all these nice things, blah, 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 but none of that interests millennials, the vast majority of them. They're too impatient and want instant gratification, so they can't sit there and they can't even grow a frickin' tomato that they bought halfway to full size already from a hardware store, let alone grow from seed like I have, you know. There's not a great deal that will do that. And there's some, you always get that odd 1 or 2% that'll be very different from most. But, you know, back to the point here about millennials and work, like, there's someone that claimed to be a baby boomer, and oh, I could see it coming, and this and that, and, you know, corporations, and, you know, real load of crap. Basically what the guy said was that, you know, you have to jump to the demands of millennials or they won't work for you, and not only will they not work for you, they won't buy your products, and they can wait it out till your business goes broke. Well, you know, and the other ridiculous thing, oh, there's so few rich people and so many people who are just workers now that there's a whole heap of workers, so you don't have a choice but to pick from them. You just contradicted yourself. You said there was an oversupply of people and an undersupply of jobs, which lands you in a China situation where people are scrambling for a job and the wages get driven right down because people want money so badly that they're willing to take a piss poor wage to have some wage versus get back out in the rice paddy fields and keep planting that rice. So anyway, long and short of it is that apparently he also thought that you know, they can watch your business wither and dry up if you don't do their politically correct boom boom booms, because you know, they will just decide not to consume from you. How the fuck are they going to consume anything if they're all on fucking welfare? How big of a consumer are they going to be if they don't have a job? This is one thing that always got my fucking goat when they always talk about cheap Chinese imports. Oh, it's going to help the consumer, it's going to help the consumer. Yeah, but this is the thing. You've got to be both a producer and a consumer, or at least inside the family unit that you're in, you have to have producer or producers and consumer or consumers. And you can't sort of just be one or the other. You've got to either be both as an individual, especially if you live alone like me, or at least in a family unit you've got to have one or more producers and one or more consumers. And you know, they can wait till your company dries out and blah blah blah. Well, let's throw an oddball in here. Go for one of the big blue chip companies, Caterpillar, earth moving equipment. Now, if Caterpillar decided that they were more interested in gay rights for stray cats or transgender rights for stray cats or something like this, and that was their main priority, where do you think their products would end up? Overtaken by fucking Yanmar, by fucking Komatsu, by one of the other major manufacturers of similar products. Oh, but millennials won't consume from you. You tell me how many of these politically correct millennials are buying a fucking bulldozer? Fucking none. That's how many are buying a bulldozer. Fucking none of them. Hell, they don't even know how to steer the fucking thing. They don't even know the type of steering system in them. It's skid steer. You know, they think they're going to hop into a fucking steering wheel. They're not going to consume bulldozers. What are you going to pansy that for? Holy smoke, you could end up sticking the fucking, you know, your flag or the Confederate flag on the fucking side of the damn things, and you probably still wouldn't lose any sales of Caterpillars if you started, or you wouldn't lose any more than 20% of your sales if you decided to whack a Confederate flag on the side of every frickin' Caterpillar bulldozer made. You know, really. You know. So what? What's it going to do? You know, nothing. And to think that you got the market and you're going to somehow control the market, if you don't have $5 in your pocket, you're fucking delusional. You know, because only producers end up being consumers, really speaking. But it's just so funny how they got it all worked out. You know, there's a ripper video out there, fucking cracker. And it's this girl who, right, how's this for a cracker? There's a guy who's like Irish, who's given a commentary over it, and he said that, you know, he got out of college and it took him a year and a half, like 18 months to get a job. And it was a fucking shithole of a job that he did get, but that was all there was, and he had to stick to it, you know. And this girl's come out of college and pretty much got the job straight away. And, you know, here she is, okay, I've got a job starting on Monday, you know. So what she does, she goes out and celebrates that she's got a job on Sunday night. And then is a bit hungover and turns up at work for a first day at 10:30 with a coffee. Then proceeds to do fucking nothing all day. And her manager come up and said, you know, what's going on here? Like, you know, you've turned up at 10:30 and now you got here late. You don't seem to be even trying to get on with the damn job. Like, what's going on? And she said, oh, well, if you're going to use this sort of language with me and you know, microaggressions, you know, which means if you've got a stern tone in your voice, you know, and she said, oh, you know, you've got an attitude, so I'm going to go away and I'll come back when you don't have this attitude anymore. So, okay, rightio. And he said, yeah, but just answer me question, have you done anything for the day? No, you turn up at 10:30, yep. Okay, rightio. So if you're so worried about me and my stern tone, well, you're fine. Just get whatever you got and go. And what, you can't be firing me on my first day, this and that? No, I just did fire you, so just out. And the stupid bitch has gone home, made up a bunch of protest signs, put them in the back of a car, turned up there the next day because it's the white male patriarchy. She had to deal with the white male patriarchy. I don't know what she would have done if it had been a black woman firer instead of a white male, but whatever. And I'm not joking, she's making this video talking about what has happened and that she's now got protest signs in the back of a car and she's going to go protest out the front of the place that she had a job at yesterday that she lost. And you know, even this guy in the comments that sort of, you know, there was the comments of another video, but, you know, arguing about all these things and, you know, they can, if this is a bad company, they can just leave it and they can go and get another job. Oh, so you saying they can just leave this company and just go get another job with another one? Well, they're just going to hand it to you? No, you have this thing called a resume and it has references. And if your references are looking pretty sketchy on the bottom, well, the references happen to all be your friends and it's sort of obvious because we can hear with their squeaky little 20-year-old voice that they're young people who are most likely your friends and not what it says on the references section. Well, you know, guess what? You out. And by the way, they might need a drug test, and if you've been, well, you might also never even get in. And this idea that you can just, you know, quit a job every flipping 2 months and easily get another one, nah, they sort of look and they work out. And, you know, especially if you're qualified in one thing and there's all people in the one industry and they all talk to each other. It's like the winemakers around here when my Chinese boss used to get grotty with them and then, you know, things wouldn't go so well. Well, you know, he's going to run out of winemakers because one winemaker talks to the other. News travels very fast in any industry, whether it's winemaking or it's frickin' sign making or even the corporate world. You know, there's people in the industry all talk to each other. You mightn't see the guy from blah blah competitor down the road in the office, but don't worry, they made up with each other, they're mutual friends, on the phone to each other, and you know, this one saw that one and I saw him in the supermarket and he saw me at the party on Saturday and boom boom boom, and word gets around. And, you know, if it's one of these real niche industries, one of these real specialised jobs, there's only a certain amount of people you can burn before, guess what, you're working at McDonald's because you just shot yourself in the foot with everyone involved in that niche industry. The fact of the matter is I don't really think it's millennials in general because a lot of the people I know, including myself, you really couldn't be fucked about your job when you're 20 years old. I mean, you know, you're just happy to be out of school. Which, as I said to me mother, oh, how's it to be out of school? It's like getting out of prison. I mean, honestly, I've never been in prison. Well, I've delivered stuff to prisons, so I've been inside the gates of prisons, but it was when I was a truck driver, but I don't know what it's like to be in prison, but I had a feeling that when I got out of school, it was like getting out of prison. And after that point, you're only interested in having an easy life, and it takes you a few years before you get serious. You know, you get about 25, 26, and you get serious. You're very serious at about that point. Or at least, you know, maybe even 23, you start getting serious. And I think that could be the trouble with some of these millennials, is they're just too young to take life seriously. But, you know, there's these screwed up ideas they got, you know. And this is what they said, they've been coddled and you know, treated nice by all the college professors and this and that and da-da-da, and in the real world, they get out in the real world and, oh, shit, this is not what they expected it to be. And sometimes they go on a little protest, and sometimes they have a little sook and a little teary, or they go have a little Twitter rant or YouTube rant or whatever about, you know, this thing or that thing, and you know, they're just facing the learning curve where they've got to relearn everything. It's interesting, they've got Simon Sinek there talking about millennials, and you know, and the main thing he says is what they all want to hear. Oh, things ain't good with you guys at work, but it's not your fault. Oh, it was my parents' fault because they raised me as a sooky little wimp wrapped in cotton wool that couldn't handle any real world things because, you know, my parents protected me from everything. Holy fucking cow. I was driving vehicles completely on my own at age 8. In fact, I actually said it was age 2 they would allow me to steer a vehicle, but I can quite distinguish. And they said, oh, yeah, age 5 you could change gears. Well, I can't even remember changing gears at age 5, but at age 8 I can remember being left alone with manual vehicles. I mean, half these millennials only drive fucking automatics. Even more of them don't even have a car. And I was driving a manual vehicle and getting the thing stuck, you know, out of fucking sandbogs at 8 years of age. And I can remember this very clearly. You know, and it didn't end there. At 15 years of age, I was welding with an arc welder. I could weld beam tins together. You know, and I don't think I'm a high achiever. In fact, I look at my sister and I am not a high achiever compared to my sister. But you know, the sooner these kids learn to fucking do something, the better. And all this shit about, oh, we had this school teacher and we were doing something, I think it was electronics, yeah it was, at one point there, and we'd had other ones and they just give us a solder on and go for your life, you know. And this guy was so pedantic, he couldn't even let us use a fucking bench drill. I mean, we're not talking a hand drill, we're talking one here that's all, you know, comes down perfectly straight, and it's like, oh, come on, dude, fuck, I'm already using a welder. You're not going to let me use this drill? You know, oh, just be careful. Oh, fucking get off it. You know. And you'd go home and you'd be trying to fix up fucking Briggs and Stratton engines, and, you know, I was doing that at age 10, age 12. Age 12 I was obsessed with lawnmower engines, you know, and this is the thing, and you look at these saps today, you know, and they fucking chuck a tantrum if the internet doesn't work or they don't get the fucking coffee they ordered, you know? Fuck me, like, it's just beyond me what they've done with all the childhood years, because I was learning things intensely. And not fucking, you know, shit about the white patriarchy or white privilege or fucking blah blah, racist, this, da 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 da, you know, usually coming from the mouth of someone who can't even tell you what a cotton plant looks like, let alone picked any cotton. You know, it's sort of, they spent their whole fucking childhood and they didn't learn anything. They didn't learn anything practical except fucking Xbox, PlayStation, blah blah. Who gives a shit? You know, I can't, what happened? What were they doing all that time? They couldn't have spent all the time on the fucking Xbox. Honestly. You know, but this is the thing. There's just years that they've missed out. And I think this idea of telling them it's not their fault, it's how they were. Oh, thank God it's not their fault. Oh, at least I'm so relieved it wasn't my fault. It was my parents' fault. No, that's not the way to deal with it. Because by telling them that millennials are no good in the workplace, but it's not their fault, all you've done is pander to that underlying desire to blame every other person for anything that didn't work out perfectly for them. You've got to cut the shit. And Simon Sinek didn't cut the shit with him. Probably because he needed them to be on his side when he's given a talk. But the truth is that you got to start taking responsibility, and whether it's your fault or not your fault, you got to hurry the fuck up and fix things up really quick and learn a damn steep learning curve that's going to be very hard and very fast. And, you know, all this "it's not your fault"isms is not going to help the situation. And the fact of the matter is that as soon as you abdicate responsibility for anything, the problem isn't fixed. Because nobody's fixed it, because everybody's wiped their hands clean of it. Or person A has blamed person B, and person B has blamed person A. And guess what? The problem's still there. Holy smoke, what were you doing in your childhood, you know? Fucking hell. You know, there's one thing I sort of look at some of the kids I went to school with, you know, let's face it, plenty of them were white trash. And, you know, I remember going into the shopping centre and see girls who I knew from the year below me. Because I remember them at school, you know. And there they are with the baby, and it's, oh, shit. Other guys, you know, I went to school with, and, oh. Well, that girlfriend I had, she's got a kid, and now I'm paying child support, and oh, fuck. And the one thing I come out and remember saying was, I may not have succeeded, and I may not be a doctor or a lawyer, but by fuck, at least I didn't fail. You know, I mightn't have become some rocket scientist, career-minded whoopee-doo. I might be sitting there just treading water, but at least I didn't end up with a drug addiction problem, end up with fucking child support, end up with this, end up with that, end up with $30,000 debt by the time I'm 22, and, you know, and just like credit card debt that's just, there's nothing you can see, you know, for, like, look at this joint, you know, not a great house, fairly big property, to most years anyway. I mean, it's only a backyard to where I grew up, but you know, 50 acres is, you know, you can do a few things. And the total debt amount, zero. I had 43,000 on it. I paid off the 43,000. Yeah, admittedly, the other 85% was given to me, but you know, at least I'm getting ahead with help or treading water. I never really went backwards, you know, and I must admit that a lot of this I was just handed it. I see all these other people and all they were doing was just going backwards. Like their life would go from all right to shit to shitter to shitest, you know, and that's the one thing I remember I hadn't achieved. You know, I didn't have a business at that point or anything like that, and I just sort of thought, well, at least I haven't fucking gone backwards. You know, and you you look at these little Twinkie Puffs now, you know, going in to have protest signs out the front of your work, get the fuck out. I hope the security guard fucking, you know, picked her up by her ankles or something like that, you know. But this is the thing, you know, it's just, this whole, how could you function with it, you know, with those sort of employees? And the fact is you can't. And the big fact is that a lot of these SJWs have got a fucking, not a 12 gauge, they've gone to the big old, you know, 1920s British style 2 gauge that's got a fucking shell that's about fucking 5 inches long. And they've got one of those, and I've held one of those, and they're I would say they're around about 18 pounds for that gun. Empty, and they've got one of those big 2 gauge single barrel shotguns from the old days in England, and they've shot themselves straight in the foot with one of them, not with a 12 gauge, with a fucking big ass 2 gauge, and these are fucking big guns. And how they've done that is because they love the idea of bringing in immigrants and more immigrants and more immigrants. And guess what? If they want a job, the immigrants will be taking the jobs. Because if you're like me, who works for a foreign multinational that is spread over 22 different countries, you get a chance to work with immigrants. And even if you're just inside Australia, full stop. because there's so many immigrants here, you will get a chance to work with immigrants. It's just inevitable you'll work with immigrants. You know, and I'm working with a few, and one of them's only been here for about 8 years or something, and he told me the story the other day of living through a tsunami, actually, and you know, you see the drive and the motivation of these people. You know, this guy's a Samoan. There's another guy who was a Tongan, you know, and he'd be talking business every fucking day. I've got this business idea. How's this for a business idea? There's some guy I know who's doing this and he's making this. Talking about business, business, business all the time. You know, and the Samoans the same sort of a thing. You know, he's not quite as full on, but he's always, you know, he's ticking over ideas. And he sort of, you know, his wife does stuff on the side. You know, they've got like 4 or 5 kids, as a lot of islanders do, but she's a dressmaker on the side, you know, and while she's sitting there with this baby and this one and blah, blah, you know, she's, boom, you know, running sewing machines and doing all this stuff from her house, you know, and he's talking to me about, what do you know about lopping trees and this and that, and, you know, I had a business idea, and that's all they see, you know, they're always interested in entrepreneurial ideas, making money, and they're hard workers, and they work hard 5 days a week, and they're quite happy to work 6 days a week, maybe even 7. You know, they really, some of them are happy to work 7 days a week. They really want to get ahead. They've really got that lemon drive. And you compare that to some millennial who turns up fucking 2 hours late and then whinges about your microaggressions when you crack the shits that you've been going like a bat out of hell for 2 hours because you're short a person. Wow, you know. So they shot themselves right in the foot by being so pro-immigrant, because you come across immigrants and they work like fuck. And there's one I heard of who's Italian, come over here as a kid, and the guy, and this is a guy I used to work with who is Hungarian, who used to work for this guy. Come over here as a kid. The guy's worth fucking tens of millions now, to the point that he's actually got his own friggin', you know, plane that he flies between his headquarters in the capital and where his main potato farms are. He's got an entire processing plant, a huge one, fucking acres, for all these vegetables he grows, and he grows them in another area, and he's got a plane he flies back and forwards between the two. You know, and the guy's worth shitloads. His employees are, in excess of 50 employees, and he come here as a fucking 7-year-old with raggedy clothes on, you know, and he made a go of it. And the dude's now like fucking 70 years old, and he's worth tens of millions, you know. And this is what we saw it particularly with the Italian and the Greek immigrants here. And guess what? You know, now it might be Sudanese, Samoan, Tongan. Hey, I don't know about the Sudanese, but I know definitely between the Samoans and the Tongans, there's a lot of drive there. There's a hell of a lot of drive, you know, and this is the thing. You put them up against the millennial won't have a fucking job for any more about the first 2 hours that they didn't turn up for. So anyway, that's my little rant there about millennials' hopeless work ethics.